I remember the next time that I spoke to her was the same day they were pulling Saddam's statue down, and we were all watching that on the news. And I was like, where were you?
Yeah.
Where are you? And she was like, well, this is where we are. And I'm like, well, where are you sleeping? And she's like, on the floor of Saddam's palace. Hi, I'm Megan Heritage, and we are back with the Positivity in Practice podcast. And today I get to interview one of our agents at Blue West Properties, Lindsey Mauntel. Hi, Lindsay.
Hi.
So Lindsay just did something super cool. You became
Military relocation professional.
And I love this for you because you are the wife of
A retired major in the Air Force.
I love this. So Lindsay said before, I want to interview her not only about her real estate acumen inside of the space and relocating and helping veterans and those that are active in the armed forces, but also as the wife of someone who moved all around and was in active service for some time and now still works inside of the U.S. government. Is that how we say it? What do we say?
Yeah, he's like a consultant helping small companies get government contracts. So yeah, he's working on base. He was just on an Air Force base last week.
So tell me a little bit about how you guys meet.
How we met. So we went to the same college, but he was a senior when I was a freshman. Did not know him until I was a senior. Our best friends were getting married, who are also in the Air Force. She's a JAG officer. He's a fighter pilot. So we were in their wedding together.
Okay.
Yeah.
JAG officer is a
lawyer.
attorney.
Yes.
Yes. Very good. See? So I have a little bit of military background in that I'm the daughter of a U.S. Army colonel. And so helping veterans has always been a huge honor for me because my mom says that I would have been the worst soldier ever. So, but that's okay. So you guys meet and he is active Air Force at that time?
Yes.
Okay. Does that mean that you have to move?
So I moved out there after college. I had to do an internship, so I moved back home with my parents. And then after my internship ended, I moved to Colorado. We lived there for a little bit, got married, and then immediately moved to Los Angeles. So yeah, we've been Colorado, Los Angeles, Ohio, Washington, D.C., and then we came here.
So is that Colorado Springs where the Air Force base is?
Yeah.
Okay. And why Los Angeles?
Is
that another base?
It is Los Angeles Air Force Base.
Okay.
And I'm not going to know what he did there.
It's okay.
Just moved there.
You don't have to know what he did there.
Yeah.
We're not interviewing him. We're interviewing you.
I know, right? But like most spouses would know like what their husband did or spouse did in the military.
He does something with planes in the Air Force, or maybe not planes.
Like drones and like spy stuff. And
ooh.
Yeah.
Maybe we shouldn't
some
know.
of the stuff I can't know, but also I choose to just not pay attention sometimes.
Yeah. So that I remember when my mom was called active Army. So she was a reservist for years, and then she was called active Army. And she said, I'm traveling to Germany. The next time you understand where I am, you'll see it on the news. And it was just wild.
Yeah. I mean, there were times in D.C. when he worked for the NRO, he would go on a trip and I wouldn't know where he was when he was I knew when he was coming home. I had no idea where in the world he was or what he was doing. And that's just like the way of life. It was just like, I don't get to know. I remember one time we were getting ready to go to bed and he was like, I can't wait to tell you what I did in 25 years when it becomes unclassified. I was like, cool. Anyway, moving on.
Yeah. And I remember the next time that I spoke to her was the same day they were pulling Saddam's statue down, and we were all watching that on the news. And I was like, where were you?
Yeah.
Where are you? And she was like, well, this is where we are. And I'm like, well, where are you sleeping? And she's like, on the floor of Saddam's palace.
Brian's been there. I've seen photos of Saddam's palace. He was in Iraq when bin Laden was killed. And immediately I was like, we were watching it on the news and I couldn't get a hold of him and I was freaking out. And I knew he wasn't in that area. I thought he wasn't in that area, but still like, where are you? What are you doing? I know you're on helicopters sometimes. Like, what's going on? But he luckily was nowhere near that situation.
I know. We all hope that you're not near that situation.
I know. No, you're fine.
Okay, so you then come back and you land in West Michigan. Why do you land in West Michigan?
So I grew up, my family's from Grand Rapids. And so once we started having kids, we were living in Ohio at that time, stationed at Wright-Patterson. My parents were like, we're going to take a family vacation up to Spring Lake. So we we rent a house on the lake when my oldest was 1. He's now 12. And he just fell in love with it. He had never been to Michigan. And it's funny in the military, you always talk like, where are we going to end up? Where do we can go? The military will move you one last time. And you always just fantasize, like, where are we going? Where should we live? And we always said Ohio just because my family was there. His family's in Kentucky. But then he was like, why would we move there when this is here? And so we've just always had that in the back of our minds that we were going to end up here. And so we made it happen.
How many years have you been here?
5.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you
No, 6.
6
I
years?
was in 18. Yeah.
Okay. So I got the huge opportunity to do a deal with you, which was fantastic. Lindsay was working for a different brokerage, and she was on the other side of, she was actually helping her brother
Mhm.
to buy a house that I was selling, and that was fantastic.
Mhm.
And then not long after that, I got an awesome phone call from her that she wanted to come over and work at Blue West Properties. So I've had the biggest joy working with you. We actually just did another deal together. She brought the buyer and I had the seller on a house in Muskegon.
Which is
And
actually my brother's wife's dad. So like I'm moving everyone
you
here.
work with me on the family deals, and we just bring all of the people.
We're bringing them all.
I love that.
Mhm.
And then you went in and got this military relocation certification, which I don't have. Tell me a little bit about how that's going to help you to help veterans and those in the service, active and
I think that I already had a good background on what moving is like for a military family, like what you're kind of looking for, because you're always looking for resale, which I know a lot of people are, but really though, like this is a short-term
right.
stint wherever you go. And so just getting the background information on the loan process, because honestly, like my husband did all that when we moved, and I
Mhm.
handled like where are the kids going to go to preschool, where are we,
Right.
like all the other stuff set up. So it was good for me to learn the financial side from Tom Stearns. He led the class, and it was great, and I learned a ton. And I'm just happy to have those letters next to my name now, for sure.
Yeah. There are a couple of things that are different when you're working with a VA loan. One of which is a pest inspection.
Mhm.
So the pest inspection ends up on the seller's side usually.
Mhm.
And then another one is that the closing fee is on the seller's side for the buyer.
Right.
Have you seen that be a disadvantage or an issue for clients?
No, I haven't seen that so far. I feel like anyone who's coming in with a VA loan, it's usually not that big of an issue. And it's like, for instance, this is funny that this is happening right now. My parents they snowbird to Arizona.
Mhm.
So they are actually buying a house closer to, because my older brother lives there. So they're buying a house closer to them and selling their house. And they got an offer from a VA loan. And I was kind of walking them through that. And they were like, well, why do we have to pay seller's concessions and stuff like that? So kind of walking them through that. And my dad was like, well, I'm honored because this is a veteran who is coming. Like, I'm
Right.
obviously, not that you should lean towards that just for that reason, but
No,
I
yeah,
think
you should. You should. If
Yeah.
people are willing to go to
Yeah.
Iraq to
I
keep
know.
you safe,
I
yeah,
agree.
100% you should. Absolutely.
I agree.
And I always laugh because I will say, as the daughter of a U.S. Army colonel, thank you for your service. And I will often take on those fees. So Blue West will absorb them, or I'll take them, onto our side so that it doesn't hurt my buyer. And you're welcome to always do that too. But they will then say, please thank your father for his service. And I will laugh because my dad was Canadian. So I'm like, it's my mom. And then they're like, what?
Yeah.
Like, your mom is a U.S. Army colonel. Well,
She's-
retired. Now we just call her grandma.
I love that.
I do too. I love that you have, there's a sense of urgency that comes when somebody has to move fast. What did that feel like for you guys?
We bought our house in Ohio. Brian was in Iraq and I was in LA. Never saw it, never walked in the door. Never. I saw like a video of it from my parents. They walked through it for us. I mean, and we had it closed. We literally closed on it without even laying eyes on it. We knew that it was in the neighborhood we wanted. But it's definitely like, hey, when he gets back from Iraq, we have like 2 weeks and we got to go and we got to move. And you're always just on the move. So definitely getting the ball rolling and moving fast is something that just has to be done.
So could your degree is from Kentucky, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of a big deal. We
Mm-hmm.
should probably say that out loud. Not the easiest school to get into, but is in what?
Dietetics.
Okay, so could you even work in that space when you're moving from here to there to everywhere and you have
Yeah.
3 young sons and
It's hard. So my resume is so jacked up. So when we moved to Colorado, I had just gotten my registration. I sat for my exam and got my registration. So we moved to Colorado. I, in the back of my head, know that I'm not going to be there long, but you can't say that in an interview because you want a job. And so I'm sitting for this job. I got a job at a nursing home, and then we have to move 8 months later to Los Angeles. And then I actually got a job through that same company. It was like a consultant company for dietitians.
cool.
So I was set up there. But then we were supposed to be there for, 4 years, but then he got an assignment to get his master's. So then we moved to Ohio, and it's just like all this moving. And I got a job at the VA. So yeah, it is. It's very hard to like, you look at my resume and you're like, wow, like this girl's been around.
Well, but I think there's a huge benefit to you helping people in that transition, right? Because you've been through it
Sure.
before. So you can have empathy and compassion and real understanding of what this feels like with small children and
Yeah.
trying to find new friends and trying to find
You
all
have
of
to
the
date
things.
for your friends. Yeah. You're still dating like all throughout because you like have to, it's awkward to like keep going in these new spaces and like having to put yourself out there constantly. I am not like an extroverted person, but you kind of have to be. You have to turn it on and you have to go to all these events and meet all these people because you want those connections. And I'm thankful that happened because we are still friends with all of our military friends. We know people all over the country just through all of our moves and everything.
That's so wild.
it's been
Like
great.
I totally feel like you're an extroverted person.
I not in my core.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Well, you're super warm and you're really friendly.
I think I because I had to be like maybe that's coming out more because I've had to be that in my whole adult life.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I don't see you like singing on, benches in the center of the mall like I was when I was a kid, but I definitely don't see you standing in the back corner
Yeah.
either and hanging out. So when you were doing the relocation deals here, do you think that most of that is or is going to be Coast Guard?
Yeah, for sure. The
Okay.
majority of it. Or retired, like veterans who moved to the lakeshore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I do not like about the VA loan, and I'll is that it's a 0 down loan, and so what I saw is kids that were relocated here, young people, they're not kids, and then they within 12 months, 16 months, were relocated back out.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened with them is, they bought a 200 and some odd $1,000 house. And they were not in an equity position or much of an equity position by the time they paid the fees that it costs to get back out. So I've been a proponent to like, why don't we just give these people $15,000 for serving our country or $20,000 for serving our country? And it has not changed very much, this VA program, for years and years and years. What did you guys ever have that? Did you use
sure.
VAs when
Yeah.
you bought? Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
Brian bought his Colorado condo before I knew him in 2007. And then we couldn't, when it was time to move to Los Angeles, we were so upside down and we tried to sell it, this realtor talked us into trying to do a short sale. We're like in our young 20s. We're like, okay. And try to do that. That didn't work. And so then we just had to hold on to it and rent it for a while, which was great until the guy started like, we had to evict someone and he was in the court like speaking tongues and there were like 12 people in a 2-bedroom condo. It was just a mess. So then we had to we tried to do it all ourselves. So then we hired a property management company.
Okay. But when you came here, you built.
Yes.
Lindsay has an amazing house. It's gorgeous.
Thank you.
Yeah. So that's something that you offer clients too, right? Like
Yeah.
this aesthetic. And I don't mean like she did have her house built, but she like is in videos on Instagram with like bandsaws and
I think that's part of my military spouse coming out because when you keep moving, you have to make your house your home. Like you're just like I'm professional at taking down wallpaper. I've had to take down wallpaper at so many houses. And I couldn't. You don't buy nice furniture because you're moving and it gets broken and it's just terrible. So I remember when we lived in Ohio, it was when I was trying to get pregnant with my second son and going through IVF and all that. Like my outlet was creating and like building things. I wanted this table. I had this table in my mind from Restoration Hardware. And I was like, I can't afford that. So I'm going to make it. And I went over to my dad's house, grabbed a saw, and he was like, what are you doing? And then I sent a photo to Brian at work of this wood. And I was like, it's happening. And he was just like, okay.
And I built a table. Backsplashes, crown molding. And let me tell you, she has a whole nother job. So she's selling real estate full time, but you are also
a dietitian.
Where?
Yes, at DeVos.
At DeVos Children's Hospital, which is the Disney cruise ship of healthcare.
The most fantastic place in the world.
It really is. Yeah. And I'm so proud of you because I feel like you're the queen of Lake Hills Elementary PTO. Anytime anybody is like, one of my friends was having a challenge. Her little girl was having a challenge. And I was like, let me get some intel on this whole situation. And like these two little people sorted it solely because the moms could be connected because Lindsay was out there, on the playground while she's at DeVos, while she's helping veterans to purchase houses, while she's raising her 3 sons, which are like little soccer prodigies, right? You're doing all of the things.
And I think I attribute that. I think how I am as an adult is because I was a military spouse. Like I don't think I would have, like, honestly, when I look back, I think I'd still be in Ohio, which there's nothing wrong with that, but I wouldn't have seen the things that I've seen and I wouldn't have had the challenges that we've had if it wasn't for going on this journey. And I'm super grateful for it.
Well, there's a directness about you that I really appreciate. I told this story just a little bit ago, but like the I'm going to work for you or I'm all done with real estate was our first coffee.
Yeah.
And so, but there was some part of me that just respected that so much because it really is the way I call my mom the Colonel sometimes, but it really is the way that like, no, this is just how this needs to be. Right. And if it doesn't, I love the boundary of that. And I love the like, I've made a decision in my mind. This is how we're going to do, this. And it doesn't mean that in any way I feel like you're inflexible. You're flexible all over the place and you're constantly moving to help a kid or moving to help a client or running over here or running over there. But you do it with a unselfish effortlessness that also is just really empowering. Like, of course you can, when you were like, well, I think I'm going to do this thing at DeVos. I'm like, of course you can, And then you've just got it.
Again, I think that thank you. And I think that that's because we had neighbors when we lived my parents moved to Ohio when I was in 7th grade. And we had everyone was in the military there because there was a huge military base. Mm-hmm. And my mom was like, she was really good friends with their neighbor. And she's like, she used the word hard. And I like meaning like stern and in a good way, always in a positive way. They're still friends now. And I feel like that's how I like now my mom will say that about me. She's like, you don't take no for an answer. I was like, when it comes to the important things, absolutely not.
Right.
I can be flexible, but like when it comes to getting business done, my kids, my family, like it is, I set a very stern boundary. And I think again, that's because I had to fight with a roof rack company in California for like 45 minutes because I wasn't Brian, I had to deal with things when he was gone and I had to we had gas leaks, we had all these issues and you just have to step up and do it in a space where I never would have before. Ever.
Yeah. Somebody that I don't know very well and they don't know me very well was at a lunch with one of my friends and they called me aggressive. And
so not you.
I did not care for this word aggressive. But then I talked to John about it, my husband, and then I talked to my friend Curtis and Brooke Bissonette, who we both know, and they were like, yeah. And I was like, what do you mean? Like, I'm not aggressive. But when they dug a little deeper and they were like, if it is about like a kid getting hurt or if it is about a client being backed into a corner or, affordable housing or I guess I am a little bit hard and aggressive inside. Like I'll go after it 100%, yeah. Not unkind, but tenacious,
yeah.
Lots of grit. So it's interesting how like the word hard, you can look at it and be like, well, yeah, I guess it just depends on what areas, right? Because I see you soft with your kids and I see you loving and all of those other things. But, Yeah,
Yeah.
in other spots, like, no, I'm old enough now that I'm not dealing with nonsense
Yeah.
anymore. And if you come for a small child or it's a space of inequity, like, yeah, I'm probably going to be a little bit aggressive.
Yeah. For sure.
I love that. Well, I want people to know how they can get in touch with you, veteran or otherwise, or
Mhm.
active military or otherwise. Lindsay does an absolutely remarkable job for our team and knows all things schools and little people and soccer. And I really do think as people come into the community, it's important to be with other minded realtors and maybe, people who have either been in that age or are realtors who have been in that age group, right? Like it's always nice if somebody's moving into the Lake Hills area to be able to talk about Lake Hills or Rosie for me or that
Totally.
kind of thing. How do people get in touch with you to work with you?
I mean, my contact information's on the Blue West webpage, so you can get it there. You can follow me on Instagram. Camp Norfolk is where I put, which is also like, that's a whole nother story. But that's where I have like all my house projects and all that kind of
Yes.
stuff I do. But you can get a hold of me there too.
Camp Norfolk is so fun.
Yeah, thanks. It's yeah. So I had my husband help me come up with the name because this is such a long story. But I won a contest for art van furniture when we first moved here.
Oh, very nice.
And they wanted me to start to start promoting them on Instagram, and I didn't want to do it on my personal page, so
Sure.
we came up with Camp Norfolk because that's my street name, and then camp is a very like military term.
It's really fun to follow her personally and follow the Camp Norfolk thing because sometimes you get like the feed where she's like a soccer mom and then 5 minutes later she's like retiling an entire kitchen backsplash or her laundry room or she's cutting crown molding and like flipping things upside down and all of these things are happening sort of at the same time. And then you realize like if you text her like where are you? She's at DeVos like helping small humans. Like it's a lot. It's
It
a
is a
lot.
lot. No, it is a lot.
You carry it really well with grace and dignity, and I am so incredibly blessed and grateful
Feels
that
about
we
you.
found you. Like
know.
I think the world of you, and I'm so honored that
Okay.
you've chosen. No crying, no crying. My first guest today said they were going to cry too.
Oh no.
I'm not trying to make everybody cry. I just think that you're so good. Like you're just a really, really good human. And I'm grateful to call you friend and team member. And if anybody is looking for fantastic help in the real estate area, especially in the veteran and the VA loan and getting significant understanding about what those things look like, contact Lindsay at Blue West Properties. Thanks, Lindsay.